Good morning or good afternoon. It's Matt Coleman speaking. I'm the co-founder of Magnify World. Currently speaking from Los Angeles. We have a very special guest today from San Jose, Tom Coughlin from Coughlin Associates. He's an author, writer, and specialist in database management and also in the media and entertainment industries as well. Tom, welcome. How are you today?
Very good, Matt. Thank you for inviting me to join you.
Yeah, no, we're excited to hear about the advances and what you've been doing in the last 40 years, as we were saying, and then you've spun off your own company in the last sort of 20 odd years to specialize in the storage. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into this? I believe you got an engineering degree, and is that what led you into this originally?
Yeah, well, life is interesting, you know, and it kind of, life's what happens when you're making other plans, I guess you might say. But my background, I'm originally actually from the north central part of the US. I was born in South Dakota. And I've got a degree in physics, a bachelor's degree in physics, and then I have a master's degree in electrical engineering, material science, and a Ph.D. in electrical engineering. I worked for companies for about half of my career, and working on digital storage technologies and doing engineering management work at various levels. And then about 1999 or so, I was working for a startup. They went south, and I figured, why don't I just do my own thing? I probably could run a company as good as these guys could. So I did that, and I've been basically since 2000. I've been on my own. Coughlin Associates, and do consulting of various types. I've also been writing reports, market and technology analysis reports in various topics on the digital storage and memory and their applications. And then I've also been putting on events. I started the Storage Visions Conference, which for many years was running along just before the Consumer Electronics Show in January. And I had another conference called Creative Storage, that focused on storage and professional media and entertainment. And I was chair of the Flash Memory Summit for 10 years. And I've been doing various other events as well. So big parts of what I do is consulting, analysis, and publishing pieces on that, and also putting on events. And in the course of that, I know you want to talk about that, I've also been involved in a bunch of professional organizations in various ways too.
Yes.
So,
yeah, the Institute of Electrical and Electronics or Engineers is one.
yep.
IEEE.
Yep, IEEE.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that? You're the chair still, are you?
So I have done a bunch. IEEE is the largest technical professional organization in the world with over, I think generally it's over 400,000 members worldwide. Mm-hmm. And something like half of them are in the US and the rest are elsewhere. And it's got a lot of pieces. And I've been very involved in a lot of different organizational units within the IEEE, from something called Future Directions, which is working on new technologies, to there's a Santa Clara Valley has a section, they call them the local group of sections. So I've been involved in that. I was chair of that. I was director of IEEE Region 6. That put me on the IEEE Board of Directors. Region 6 is the Western United States.
I see.
And I've been on a bunch of committees. Most recently, last year, I was president of IEEE USA. So I'm the immediate past president of IEEE USA. So those are some of the things I've done.
And what's some of their goals that come to mind? What are they trying to achieve in the industry as a sector?
Well, the basic tagline is technology, technology for the benefit of humanity. So we're involved in all manner of different technologies, and attempting to use them to create new wealth, to make life better, to answer all manner of different problems. For instance, issues with sustainability are being addressed. In fact, I was just in a meeting earlier today where they were talking about sustainability initiatives in the IEEE to any kind of technology you can think about.
Right. And is that the United Nations sustainability goals you're referring to?
Actually, yes, they are. Actually, there was discussion on being involved in a conference. Probably it's going to end up being a virtual conference, supposedly in Berlin. Yeah. Which is going to been put on by UNESCO and addressing those sustainability topics. Some of the sustainability topics.
Right. Well, obviously health is obviously the #1 topic on everyone's
oh yes.
at the moment. And let's talk about, I'd like talking about education as well, around SIMTI as well, which is, you're a member there. And then there's the IDEMA organization. Could you just explain also your role as a member and what you can get out of that if you want to apply?
So just, and actually I just did a series of presentations on consulting. It was actually for an IEEE consultants network in Bangalore, India. And I got into some of those topics in that. And I think that being part and engaging with professional organizations can really further your career. They help you to get connections. They help you to keep on top of things that are happening. And for me, it's been part of getting my business, you know, and I do a lot of different things, and I give lectures, I give talks, as well as publish stuff. And I just think it's very valuable for people to consider, you know, having technical home for them, or more than one technical home in their profession. So SIMTI is the Society of Motion Picture and Television Engineers, and I've been involved with them. I've helped putting on some events, SIMTI events. I've given talks. I've written papers for the SIMTI journal. I do an annual survey on digital storage and media and entertainment for media industry professionals that I do. And so I've written about that with SIMTI. IDEMA was the International Disk Equipment Manufacturers Association, which was a hard disk drive organization that is I guess it still exists on paper, but it's not as active as it used to be. But I used to be very active in there, and I helped organize events. I gave talks at events. I was chairing some standards activities in that group. There's another group I've been more engaged in recently, which is the Storage Networking Industry Association, or SNIA. And in particular on solid state storage. There was a solid state storage initiative that I was one of the founders. It recently changed its name to deal with domain specific computing hardware and other topics. Now it's the Compute, Memory, and Storage Initiative. You know, a lot of this is still tied into solid state memory and NVMe, but it also gets into, for instance, computational storage topics and other things that are quite interesting. Let's see, I'm probably a member of a few other things too, but there's only so many things you can be active in. Of course, you got to earn money too.
The reason why, I'm championing those organizations, obviously they're a great place to network, and wanting to talk about that. What about from a CIO's perspective, or a CTO's perspective, even from a board or CEO's perspective, data storage, what is, you know, what's their interest right now? I mean, it must be at an all-time high with the COVID issues, particularly regionally. And I know we touched on, you know, Europe. The European Commission has, you know, sanctioned that you have to have local hardware on the ground. I don't know whether that's per country or for the region itself. I thought it was for the region, but I may be wrong. But can you go into a little bit about, you know, how important it is from the board's perspective and a CTO's perspective, and where is this ranked on the importance in their top 10 list of things to do?
Well, especially now with COVID going on, well, even before this, data is the new oil in a sense, you know, in the same way that the Industrial Revolution was energized by inexpensive, widely available power. Data is what's driving value. And data has to move around to do things, it has to be processed, and ultimately it needs to be stored temporarily in memory, or stored long-term in storage, in longer-term storage devices. So, and the value in data is, of course, getting things out of it, learning stuff from it. And so generating what's called metadata from data, you know, which describes the data, allows you to index and search it, and to do various functions on it, is extremely important. It's important in particular industry verticals, but also if you've got data that includes information about individuals, then you're subject to a lot of these data governance laws and compliance things like you're referring to, like the individual's data there's laws in many countries it's not supposed to leave the region or the country and that kind of thing. And so that's requiring interesting developments in the management of data. And that's there's crucial in terms of the businesses that are developing it can support keeping data where it's supposed to be, and keeping in compliance with all these numerous laws. And then there's things that are happening between the edge and the core and the cloud, in a sense, where a lot of data is being generated by sensors and cameras and things of that sort, which has immediate value if it's interpreted. So that data needs to be processed with very low latency. You need to get results from that right away. And you want to do that locally. Another reason is you don't want to choke the public network with all this sensor data and camera feeds, et cetera. So there's a lot of data that should be processed on the edge, and then only results maybe go into into longer term storage. So there's
just on edge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say, edge computing obviously offers low latency. Can you maybe just give our listeners a bit of a background on edge computing, and also how that leads into 5G delivery, particularly for faster downloads? Can I hand that over to you?
Oh, you bet. So there's very interesting things going on. This whole concept of edge is tied into what's called the Internet of Things. Which has both commercial and consumer applications. And on the commercial side, it can include automation of factories, and getting machines to talk to each other, be able to communicate, and running factories more efficiently, getting higher yields, being able to find problems and address them quickly. In other words, things that are good for your return on investment, your ROI. In addition, because of the shrinkage and increasing capability of doing processing in smaller and smaller devices, and advances in terms of power management, or in the not too distant future, new memories that are non-volatile but are high speed, high performance, that will be able to reduce the power consumption for small, especially battery powered or energy harvesting devices, are going to be an important key in developing these things. These things will be located in factories. They'll be located in streets. They'll tie into like traffic cameras, tie into sensors in your home. Could even be sensors in your body before too long, in terms of medical applications. Yeah. This brings up security issues, but it also brings up that we're going to have an awful lot of data, and most of this data, you don't want to stream it all to the net. For one thing, you choke the network, and then you wouldn't be able to watch your Netflix movies. But the other thing is that you need the value of a lot of this content. Say autonomous cars interacting with local infrastructure in a city, they need decisions right away before they hit somebody. So that's what's driving. So things like that, and even this whole COVID thing. Just recently, another group I have some involvement in is SEMI, which is the Semiconductor Industry Association, and they apparently have standards that have a lot that basically using these standards has allowed greater automation of the factories, which is better for the yield because people shed things, and it's not good to get these on chips. But it also has allowed them to get equipment that interoperates, develops more automated facilities, and allows these semiconductor facilities to stay operating even with less people there, with people working remotely. Yeah. So this whole movement of creating this creating this new types of sensors and greater generation of data needs to be processed soon in many cases. And that's part of what's driving these advanced networks like the 5G networks is, can I provide high performance connectivity that is sort of ubiquitously available, particularly in cities. It requires a lot of infrastructure, but the idea is I can get all these things to be able to talk over local networks. And then there's initiatives and people building equipment and software that basically would do things at the cell towers or local facilities. There's actually people essentially building data centers in a box that would provide processing, memory, and some storage that would located right next to a cell tower, or perhaps even in wherever they put the local 5G infrastructure. And so those are going to be big drivers, in terms of what people are going to be able to do, and enabling the value that can be gotten from this data, to create wealth, to create new ways of doing things, to allow, for instance, people to be able to work even with a pandemic. It's going to change the way in which we do things. And hopefully we can also get that to trickle down to people that are not tied into the technology or technologists themselves, and make sure that they're included as well.
Yeah, from a simple shopping experience, I mean, you look at, you know, the potential of what, you know, smart glasses could offer the consumer, but also the commercial enterprise industry for manufacturing.
Like augmented reality, you know.
Yes.
If I have a display in my glasses that, yeah, that's another example of things. We're going to have more technology around us in the future, not less, because technology is getting cheaper, it's getting more ubiquitous, and it does provide enormous value. But that also, of course, means that you've got security, privacy issues that we definitely need to address and make sure that people trust the technology.
Well, it's interesting that Apple said a couple of years ago, Tim Cook was saying that he believes he's got the most secure mobile device on the market, and he won't release any of the information to US authorities. I don't know whether you know too much about that, but I'm just telling you what I read in the media, of course. But
yeah,
they seem to be flying the flag, you know, in that way compared to most.
So at a CES show, I think it was a couple of years ago, Apple generally doesn't show up there, but there was a big banner that was running down one of the buildings when you go on Paradise Boulevard, and it says, "Whatever happens on the iPhone stays on the iPhone."
That's right. I was there. I saw that too.
You saw that, yeah.
Yeah. So let's hope that's true. But moving on, I know you do a digital storage paper as well, a white paper in the media and entertainment space. A lot of our viewers are in that area in the media and entertainment corporate world. What are you actually covering? What subjects in your media and entertainment report in terms of white papers? I know we touched on the Hollywood Professional Alliance that recently met last week. You and I recently talked about the Media Labs, you know, white paper that was put together last year. What are you finding, you know, for the movie business now? You know, how are they gonna survive? You know, and how can they take advantage of this? You know, streaming is an all-time high. Netflix is more powerful on the stock market than Disney because obviously.
Yeah, Comcast and Disney, it's amazing.
Got resorts, which are an issue for them, which is, I believe, about 40% of their revenue. So they're hurting badly on that front. But look, even Facebook and everyone else are, you know, are probably obviously having a hard time. The whole advertising industry, the dollar's down. I mean, how do people take advantage of even the future and quantum computing coming in and all that sort of stuff? What are your thoughts on that and the future of media and entertainment and storage?
Well, you know, I'm looking forward to the James Cameron's Avatar 2, because I think we all need a few good avatars.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I think it's a very big topic, and there's an awful lot of things going on. First of all, I do report on digital storage and media and entertainment, professional media and entertainment. And I also do an annual survey, which on digital storage and professional media and entertainment that I advertise out to get media and entertainment professionals to help on. And I've been doing this for many years. And I'm actually working on the 2020 report now. I'm hoping to finish that this month. I've actually had customers looking for it, so I need to get that done. And I've done also several white papers for a lot of companies that are doing storage products in the media and entertainment industry, sort of to what's going on in the industry, and then maybe talking about their product and how it fits into that, and how it may be able to help solve some customers' issues. We've got interesting times right now in the media and entertainment industry because of the tools like Slack and all these remote interactions. People have been able to keep up collaborative workflows, you know, like in post-production type activities. And we're still able to do that. And I think we were talking earlier, you do that yourself. And but we've also got issues in terms of getting production back on board to make new content. And that usually involves people working together, unless you're doing animation. By the way, this is probably the golden age of animation in that regard.
Interesting you said that.
Yes.
You're the third person that said that to me this week, and it's only Monday afternoon. It is the right, animation, no people on set.
Or if you want to take it, if we can get our special effects enough, can you do real-time special effects that would be indistinguishable from a person?
Yeah,
you know,
that's true.
And we're not there yet, but you know, technologies like this do make that sort of thing more attractive. But physical production also has been, you know, people are doing things, do the social distancing and disinfection and testing people and measuring their temperatures and all that kind of stuff. But the other things going on, there's some really interesting technologies that may reduce some of the potential dangers for actors and the people who are engaged in making new content. For instance, instead of traveling to a location, there's actually, I saw this at a HPA retreat in February before everything closed down, where they're creating essentially big LED displays that will show you a scene in high resolution. Not only that, but of course it provides light because it's a LED display.
Yeah.
And so it gives you realistic lighting and images that people are using this for, like the Mandalorian, you know, for places that don't exist, or instead of traveling somewhere, you might be able to create in studio something that looks like you're outside somewhere, for example. So there's tools like that. There's apparently some of these remote collaboration tools, people are using that to avoid gatherings of people to review content, you know, do the interactive stuff. You know, a lot of that's moving remote and online. And I suspect that even after this is over, that because of extended months of working through technology versus being face-to-face, people are going to be a lot more comfortable, a lot more conversant about that. And we're going to develop better technologies for doing that. You know, one thing that I've thought of is, could we make a display that actually is a camera? So when I look at you in the face on, you know, on my, you know, versus the camera being somewhere else, what if the display was a camera? So it's a real transducer device, both to transmit and receive video content. You know, things like that would sort of transform the industry. If I could make a telepresence that really can engage people like human beings engage when they're personally together, at least will help. This doesn't replace face-to-face ultimately, because people were still herd animal or social animals anyway. But it certainly would, you know, would give us new options. And I think once you do this, and I've heard in the Bay Area, there's a lot of companies that some people may never go back to work again. They may work, but they may never go back to work again, or you know, very seldom. So I think we're going to see big changes enabled by technology and the way people work on things.
Now, I know a lot of the major corporations that I deal with, you know, aren't going back to the office till next year at least.
Yeah, June, I've heard in some of the companies.
Right, and also, you know, the music industry live events obviously are being pushed back. You know, every 6 months I talk to someone, there's another 6-month delay. You know, and possibly, you know, I hope this doesn't happen, but, you know, I heard 2 years, you know, and probably the industry won't recover for 3 years in terms of getting back up to speed. I mean, it's going back to your Mandalorian style comments, the gaming engine, the gaming world, actually, although it was probably 10 times the size of the Hollywood and music industry put together, you know, it's so large, but their gaming engine tech and development tools are being used everywhere now.
They're being used for video production work.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's great to see the film and television industries really taking that seriously and fast forwarding that, because that's, I think, you know, it's, as you said, you can shoot in real time, which is going to save on post-production and storage, I would imagine, as well.
Yep.
I mean, the Lion King, I don't recall the amount of storage that animation had, you know, throwing around, but it was a big number still. But, you know, the storage capability for these, you know, studios is just going to get bigger and bigger.
It is, especially if you consider, you know, people, basically the aim is you shoot for as good a resolution, as good a high dynamic range as you can afford, right? And that makes your content more future-proof. So people are going to be going to 8K workflows. They're going to be going even to 16K workflows, especially if you have these multi-camera projects. If you try to do VR, you know, 8K per eye, you could tell the difference, especially if you're wearing goggles or something like that. So I think we're going to have higher frame rates, going to have higher resolution, higher dynamic range. Using bigger color gamuts. There's a lot of factors here that are going to drive up the requirements for storage, and it's not atypical for some of these higher end video projects to generate petabytes of data in the course of their work. That'll be hundreds of petabytes in not too long period of time. And I could see within the next few years, we could see something that's close to an exabyte of content created for a single video project.
So petabytes, can you just give the viewers a background on what a petabyte is and how important that is?
Yeah, so people generally have an idea what a terabyte is. So a petabyte would be 1,000 terabytes. And then an exabyte is 1,000 petabytes. And there's something called a zettabyte, which is 1,000 petabytes. And then there's some other ones beyond that.
And where does quantum computing in the future, come into the storage walls, I call them now, I guess? Your storage vision.
Yeah, so quantum computing is a whole bunch of. I've had some connection with a group within IEEE that was rebooting computing, that was looking at, what's beyond Moore's law, right, and the Dennard scaling. And quantum computing is one of those things. And there's actually people that are enabling forms of quantum computing now. I think there are particular applications where that will start to have some important use. And there's a whole bunch of other things going on too, where there's, where you can do calculations that are approximations that are good enough for the application, right, versus trying to get precise results. Mm-hmm. There's neuromorphic computing, where they're actually trying to build computing systems that model the brain in terms of being able to do processes and solve issues, especially like some AI and image recognition. Some of the applications people use that on. So it's a partially analog, partially digital type of computing device. There is enormous creativity going on. And also in the applications, there's this concept called digital twins. Have you heard of this?
Yes, I have. Yeah, please explain that.
So digital twins is an idea that's being used for engineering applications to model something and create a model that's as good as the thing itself for debugging, testing, and essentially getting better ideas about how the real thing would work. This is potentially going to be applied to all kinds of things. Potentially, we could make a digital twin of you if I could create a model that was complex and interactive enough that it could guess what you would do to a given stimulus in a given environment, for example. So, we don't know how to do all that very good yet, but we can create digital twins of all types of different sorts of things. And this also is an enabler of doing things hands off. If I can create mathematical models running on computers that do a good simulation of a thing, then I can make less mistakes potentially. I could get things done faster. I could get things done with less, having less to interact with the things physically. So for instance, in a case like that now, people can do, it enables more remote work, enables more being able to do stuff. Now, we can't yet do the replicator function to make food from, raw materials. But we can do at least engineering tasks, or we can make something that acts like the real thing. We're getting a lot closer in other areas where we might be able to do that as well. So this idea of digital twins is a really fascinating concept of where that could go and how we could use it.
Fantastic. Look, a really good glimpse into the future here, Tom. Any final comments about what your tips are basically for computer storage right now in the COVID world, for any potential people listening out there, and what they really should be concentrating on at this moment in time?
Sure. So there's especially nowadays, there's a big push for doing stuff with the cloud and doing things between cloud and people are making, the data center side of things, people are making trade-offs between how much I should have within my own facility and how much might be a hybrid. So I've got a private cloud, it's external access to internal content, and how much I should do in public clouds. And there's a whole bunch of technologies and that people are using to be able to understand and manage these better. I think the reason why people are able to work at all now is because of this collection of technologies that allows us to do things like we're doing now, to store, transmit, and process information. That is going to be ever more true in the future. It's going to enable enormous advances in media and entertainment. in healthcare, you know, maybe even creating vaccines more quickly. It's going to help us to have people live longer, more productive lives and happier lives, hopefully. It may help us to meditate better and, you know, not get too stressed out on things, and help us to make better decisions, and to be able to use technology to be a more informed citizen, and also to be able to contribute more, both to our own lives, our families, and to our fellow human beings. And you know, create the next wave of technologies, wherever that takes us, off planet, you know, or wherever it might go.
Well, there's a few people working with off-planet ideas, I know, right? And still, particularly on the West Coast here.
Yes.
Look, why don't you give yourself a shout out where people can find you? Is there a website that you prefer people to have a look at?
You betcha. I've got my own website. It's tomcoughlin.com, spelled just the way my name is, Coughlin. And you have information on that. And if you just go and do a search for Coughlin storage, you'll find a bunch of other things that I've done.
Hey, Tom, it's been a real pleasure talking to you about the future of storage and what's currently going on in the marketplace in media and entertainment. And thanks for giving back also to all the institutes that you're a member of. And I'm sure you're a great mentor to those societies as well. So have a great day, and we shall see you next time. Thanks very much, Tom.
Thank you very much, Matt. It's a pleasure being here and to talking to your audience.